My name is Ethan Caldwell. I'm 36 years old, and I live in Charlotte. I used to think I understood my family. I thought I knew where I stood with them, what I meant to them, and what kind of son I had been. Then one sentence in a grocery store destroyed all of it. I was standing in the produce aisle holding a bag of apples when I ran into my Uncle Raymond. He was my father's older brother, and the only person in our family who had ever looked at me without expecting something. I smiled and said, "I can't wait for Tyler's wedding next month. I finally found the right suit." Raymond didn't smile back. His face went pale. He looked at me with a kind of pity that made my stomach tighten. "Ethan," he said quietly, putting one hand on my shoulder. "The wedding was last Saturday." The store seemed to go silent. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and opened social media. There they were. My mother in a silver dress, my father raising a glass, Tyler kissing his bride, cousins, neighbors, old friends. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. They hadn't forgotten me. They had erased me. Be cheater before I tell you how everything flipped. Please like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. My name is Ethan Caldwell. I'm 36, and the worst part wasn't even the wedding. The worst part was that, 1 month later, while they still thought I didn't know, they asked for the keys to my lake house. I drove to my parents' house that night. I don't remember most of the drive. My body handled the road, but my mind stayed trapped inside those wedding photos. Tyler, in a tuxedo, my mother smiling in silver, my father raising a glass like his family was complete. Without me. When I pulled into their driveway, the porch light was on. The grass was freshly cut. The house looked warm, normal, safe. But sitting in my truck, I felt like a stranger. Tuesday night was family dinner night, usually. If they needed me to fix something, move something, or pay for something. My phone rang before noon. That night, nobody had called. I walked up the steps and used my key. Inside, the house smelled like roast chicken. I heard laughter from the kitchen, my father's low voice, my mother's softer laugh. Tyler saying something smug. Then I stepped into the room. The laughter stopped instantly. My mother, Elaine, looked up from her plate. She didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed, like I had interrupted a private meeting. "Ethan," she said, "we didn't know you were coming over. Nobody stood up. Nobody offered me a chair. Nobody asked if I was okay." I stood beside the refrigerator and looked at them. "I saw the pictures," I said, "from Tyler's wedding." The silence stretched. For one stupid second, I waited for panic. I waited for my mother to cry, for Dad to apologize, for Tyler to say the invitation got lost. None of that happened. My father, Robert, set down his fork and sighed. "It was a small ceremony. Ethan, there were over 100 people in those photos," I said, "cousins from Ohio, neighbors, Tyler's college roommate. It happened fast," Mom said, wiping her mouth. "You've been busy. We didn't want to overwhelm you." "I asked you about the date 3 times last month," I said. "You told me they hadn't picked one." Tyler finally looked up. "Don't make a scene." I stared at him. A scene. "This is exactly why we did it this way," he said. "You bring a certain energy. Everything gets heavy when you're around." My chest went cold. Mom nodded, like he had said something wise. "That's what we mean," she said. "You make people feel guilty." I almost laughed. I thought about driving Tyler to the ER at 2 in the morning when he wrecked his car. I thought about paying for Mom's dental surgery. I thought about fixing Dad's porch rail, covering their plumber, co-signing Tyler's business loan. "I make people feel guilty," I asked. "I've spent my entire adult life taking care of this family." "See," Mom said, pointing at me. "You're doing it right now." Dad cut another piece of chicken. "We wanted one peaceful day," he said. "One day where nobody had to manage your attitude." "My attitude. You're intense," Tyler said. "You always act like everyone owes you something." "You lied to my face," I said. "It was my wedding," Tyler snapped. I didn't want tension. I looked at all 3 of them, waiting for one person to look ashamed. Nobody did. That was when I understood the worst part. They weren't sorry. They didn't think they had betrayed me. They thought they had handled me. Mom picked up her fork again. "If you're staying, grab a plate," she said. "But please don't ruin dinner." Something inside me went quiet. I was standing in the kitchen of the people who raised me, and they were eating like I was a bad smell that would pass if they ignored it long enough. "I'm not staying," I said. Tyler shrugged. "Close the door on your way out." So I did. I didn't yell. I didn't slam anything. I walked back to my truck, sat behind the wheel, and stared at the glowing kitchen window. That night, I realized they hadn't just left me out of a wedding, they had left me out of the family. I sat in my truck for a long time before I started the engine. Through the kitchen window, I could still see them moving around the table, Mom clearing plates, Tyler leaning back in his chair, Dad reaching for the wine bottle like nothing important had happened. Then my eyes moved around the house, and the truth started lining up. I had paid for the refrigerator behind my mother. I had replaced the cracked tile under that table. I had bought the dishwasher after Mom cried about washing dishes by hand. I had patched the porch roof, fixed the garage door, hauled mulch, covered the plumber, and spent weekends doing repairs Dad claimed he was too tired to handle. Every room had a piece of me in it. My money, my labor, my back. But not my place. They wanted me when something broke. They wanted me when a bill came due. They wanted me when Tyler needed a cosigner or Dad needed someone with a truck. But when there was joy, I was too much, too intense, too heavy, too inconvenient. I was not their son in any way that mattered. I was their emergency contact, their unpaid contractor, their backup wallet, an appliance with a pulse. Sitting there, under the cold dome light, I stopped trying to make the truth softer. They had not failed to love me properly. They had used me exactly the way they meant to. 2 days later, my phone rang while I was sitting alone in my apartment. It was Tyler. I stared at his name on the screen. A small stupid part of me thought maybe he was calling to apologize. Maybe he had looked at those wedding photos and realized what they had done. I answered, "Yeah." "Hey, man," Tyler said, cheerful and casual. "How are you? What do you want?" He laughed. Wow, straight to that Tyler. Fine. Brianna and I never really got a honeymoon. The wedding drained us pretty bad, and we're tapped out right now. I stayed silent. That was the old pattern. Tyler had a problem. Tyler paused. Ethan solved it. This time, I let the silence sit there. So, he continued. "We were thinking we could use the lake house next week. Just a few days. Weather looks perfect. And it's not like you're using it." I stared at the wall. "You want my lake house for your honeymoon." "Don't make it weird," he said. "Mom and Dad said you'd be fine with it. They said that, yeah, they said it's family property." Family property. The phrase burned through me. "Tyler," I said, "who pays the mortgage on that house?" He sighed. "I don't know. You handle that stuff. Who paid for the roof last year?" "You did? I guess." "Who pays the taxes, Ethan? What is this? Who pays the insurance? Who drives up there every spring to clean the gutters, check the pipes, restock the pantry, and fix whatever you people broke?" He went quiet. "You do," he said finally. "But we're family." There it was, their whole belief system. My money was family money. My labor was family labor. My house was family property. But their wedding was private. Their happiness was protected. Their choices were none of my business. "What's yours is ours, right?" he said, trying to laugh. I closed my eyes. "You didn't invite me to your wedding." "Oh my God," he groaned. "Are you still on that? You lied to me. It was one day. You told me I wasn't wanted. You're twisting it. We just didn't want drama. And now you want to drink on the deck I paid for and sleep in the bed I bought. You're being petty," he snapped. "You're punishing Brianna because your feelings got hurt." Something inside me went quiet. "No," I said. "I'm waking up. What does that mean?" "It means you can't use the lake house." He laughed once. "Come on, no. Mom already promised Brianna. Then Mom can pay for your hotel." His voice dropped. "Dad's going to be furious." "Good," I said. "He can be furious from a hotel lobby. Ethan, book a hotel." "Tyler." Then I hung up. My hand was shaking, but I didn't call back. I didn't apologize. I didn't soften it with a text. For the first time in my adult life, I had told my family no and let the word stand. I knew they would come for me, but underneath the fear, I felt something new, relief. That weekend, I drove 3 hours to the lake house. Usually, I loved that drive. I liked watching Charlotte disappear behind me while the road opened into pine trees, gas stations, and flashes of water between the hills. This time, I drove in silence. No music, no calls, just the sound of tires on asphalt and Tyler's words repeating in my head. Family property. I reached the cabin right before sunset. It was an old A-frame above Lake Norman, with wide windows, dark beams, and a narrow deck facing the water. My grandfather had built it decades ago. When he died 10 years earlier, everything around the property got messy. Dad's credit was bad. Mom didn't work. Tyler was still finding himself, which meant spending money he didn't earn. I had just gotten a steady job, so they came to me. "Ethan, this is temporary," Dad had said. "We'll put it in your name for now," Mom told me. "Then we'll set up a family trust once things settle." I was 26. I wanted to be useful. I wanted them to look at me like I mattered. So I signed. Now, I unlocked the cabin door and stepped inside. The air smelled stale, like closed windows and old wood. I turned on the lights and looked around. The couch was mine. The rug was mine. The bookshelf by the fireplace was mine. Every repair, every bill, every broken thing they left behind had come back to me, but I hadn't come to remember. I had come to dig. The filing cabinet was in the small office beside the kitchen. I pulled open the top drawer and started taking out folders: mortgage, insurance, taxes, repairs, closing documents. I sat on the floor and spread everything around me. The deed was in a blue folder. I opened it. Owner Ethan Michael Caldwell. Just me. No Robert Caldwell. No Elaine Caldwell. No Tyler Caldwell. I checked the mortgage statements. 10 years of payments from my checking account. I checked the tax records. Paid by me. Insurance. Paid by me. Roof repair. Dock repair. Plumbing. All me. Then I searched for the trust. The family trust. The thing Dad mentioned whenever I questioned why Tyler had a key. The thing Mom brought up whenever I wanted one weekend alone. I searched every folder, every envelope, every drawer. There was no trust, no lawyer letter, no agreement, no shared ownership, nothing. The trust was a lie, a story they used to make me pay for a house they treated like theirs. I sat back against the desk with the deed in my hand. The paper felt heavier than it should have. They had let me pay for everything for 10 years while convincing me I had no right to control it. Mom had promised Brianna my house because, in her mind, I did not own anything. I only managed things until they wanted them. I walked to the window and looked at the dark lake. For the first time, I didn't see a son trying to be good enough. I saw an owner who had been lied to, and I knew feelings would not protect me. I needed paper. I needed law. I needed armor. It was almost 10 at night when I called Marcus Reed. Marcus and I had worked together years earlier, and he was the kind of friend who didn't waste time with polite questions when your voice sounded wrong. "Talk to me," he said. I was sitting on the lake house office floor, surrounded by folders, old envelopes, and 10 years of my own payments. "I think my family has been using me," I said. "Start from the beginning." So I did. I told him about the grocery store, Uncle Raymond, the wedding photos, the dinner, Tyler's call, the lake house, the deed, and the fake trust. I told him every mortgage payment had come from my account, every tax bill, every repair. When I finished, Marcus was quiet. Then he said, "Man, that's not family drama. That's financial abuse." Hearing it out loud made my stomach turn. "A lawyer against my parents?" I asked. "Yes," Marcus said, "especially against your parents. Stop thinking like a son for one day. Think like an owner." He gave me a name, Dana Whitaker. She handled my cousin's business dispute. He said, "She's sharp. Call her before your family gets there first." The next morning, I packed every document into a box and drove back to Charlotte. Dana's office was downtown, on the 8th floor of a glass building. She was in her 50s, with short silver hair and eyes that made excuses die quickly. She didn't offer comfort. She asked for facts. I gave her the deed, mortgage records, tax statements, insurance papers, and repair invoices. She read in silence, making notes on a yellow pad. After 20 minutes, she looked up. "You are the sole legal owner of the lake house." I exhaled. "No trust, no trust," she said. "No shared title, no recorded interest from your parents or brother. Legally, this is clean, so they can't take it not legally. But access is the issue. You allowed informal use for years. If you want to end that, we do it formally. What does that mean? Cease and desist. Written notice, locks changed, cameras installed. If they show up without permission, they are trespassing." I looked down at my hands. "That sounds aggressive." Dana leaned forward. "Ethan, they are treating you like infrastructure, something they stand on, drain, and never thank. Boundaries are not aggression. They are protection." I nodded. "Do it. Good," she said. "Now tell me what else you pay for." I almost lied from embarrassment. Then I told her everything. The family phone plan, Mom's insurance reimbursement, Dad's storage unit, Tyler's business loan. Dana wrote another name down. "Grant Holloway, forensic accountant. I want him to review your accounts." That afternoon, Grant pulled up my bank records and credit report. He was quiet, thin, and looked like a man who had seen too many lies hidden inside spreadsheets. He frowned at the screen. "You're paying $430 a month for a storage unit, my dad's furniture." I said. "How long? 9 years?" Grant clicked his calculator. "You've spent a little over $46,000 storing things that aren't yours." I stared at the number. Then he opened Tyler's loan. "He's missed 4 payments this year. He told me business was good." "It isn't," Grant said. "And because you co-signed, the bank can come after you." I sat back, suddenly cold. Grant looked at me. "Ethan, you are not just their son. You are their bank, their contractor, their safety net." I thought about my father saying they wanted one peaceful day without my attitude. "Cut it off," I said. Dana looked at me carefully. "All of it. All of it. Phones, storage, loan support, lake house access. I want locks. I want cameras. I want notices." Grant closed the file. "They'll panic. I know. They'll blame you. They already do." For the first time since the grocery store, the air in my chest felt open. Not healed, but open. The next 24 hours felt like pulling wires out of a machine that had been running my life for years. Dana drafted the cease and desist letter for the lake house. Grant prepared the financial notices. I sat between them in a conference room, watching the list grow. Family phone plan, canceled. Dad's storage unit, transferred to my parents. Their bill now. Mom's insurance reimbursement, stopped. Tyler's business loan. Formal notice sent to the bank. No renewal of backing. No quiet rescue payments when he missed another deadline. Lake house access. Locks scheduled to be changed. Cameras ordered. Written notice sent by certified mail. Each item looked small on paper: a bill, a key, a password, a signature, but together, they were the cage I had been living inside. Grant warned me twice. They're going to lose services. I know. They're going to get calls. I know. They're going to say you did this to them. I looked at the documents in front of me. No, I said, they did this. I just stopped covering the damage. That night, I went home and sat in my apartment without turning on the television. My phone was quiet, but it didn't feel peaceful yet. It felt like the air before a storm. Still, under the fear, something had changed. For the first time in 10 years, my money was staying where I put it. For the first time in my life, my back didn't feel like it had a whole family standing on it. I had not stopped being a son. I had stopped being a bank. The explosion came 3 days later. I was at my desk on the 18th floor of our office building in Uptown Charlotte, trying to review a contractor schedule I had already read twice without understanding a word. The letters had gone out. The locks were being changed. The bank had been notified. The storage unit was no longer my problem. At 10:12 a.m., my office phone rang. Mr. Caldwell, David from lobby security said, "I have 3 people here asking for you. They say they're your family." My stomach tightened. "How are they acting?" A pause. "The older woman is raising her voice. The younger man tried to follow someone through the turnstiles." I looked through the glass wall of my office. People walked past with coffee and folders, living normal work lives. My family had chosen my workplace on purpose. They thought public shame would make me fold. "Do not let them upstairs," I said. "Yes, sir. They are not authorized visitors. If they disrupt the lobby, remove them." "Understood." I hung up, waited 1 second, then stood. I didn't want to hide. I wanted to see what happened when their chaos hit a locked door. When the elevator opened in the lobby, I heard my mother first. "He is my son," she shouted. "You cannot keep a mother from her son." She stood at the security desk in a beige coat, face red, hand pressed to her chest. Dad was behind her with his arms crossed. Tyler paced near the glass doors, jaw tight. Then Tyler saw me. "There he is." Mom spun around and marched toward the turnstiles. The glass barrier stayed closed. For the first time in my life, there was something solid between us. I walked to the secure side and stopped. "Open this gate," Dad barked. "No." His eyes narrowed. "Don't act big in front of people." "I'm not acting." Mom's voice cracked into performance. "Our phones were shut off. Your father got a storage notice. Tyler's bank called. How could you do this to us?" "I didn't do it to you," I said. "I stopped paying for it." Tyler stepped forward. "You pulled your backing without warning me. I warned you for years. You called it complaining. You changed the lake house locks." He snapped. "Brianna and I drove up there. Our key didn't work. We had groceries in the car." "It's my house. Tyler, I didn't invite you. Our family house," Mom said. "No," I said. "My house." Dad leaned closer. "Come down here and talk like a man." "I am down here. You know what I mean." "I do," I said. "You want me alone, where you can yell until I pay again." People in the lobby slowed. Some pretended not to watch. The old shame arose in my throat. Then I let it die. I had not caused this scene. They had. Mom pointed at me. "You selfish, bitter man." "It's about the fake trust," I said. "The loan, the $46,000 for Dad's storage, the years of using me while calling it family." Dad's face went pale. He hadn't known I had the number. David stepped forward. "Ma'am, you need to leave," Dad snapped. "I want your supervisor." "I am the supervisor on duty," David said. Then he looked at me. "Mr. Caldwell, do you want them removed?" The lobby went quiet. My mother stared at me, waiting for the old Ethan, the one who apologized when she cried, the one who paid when Dad glared, the one who rescued Tyler before consequences touched him. I looked at them, my family, my debt collectors, my ghosts. "Yes, David," I said. "Please remove them. They are harassing me." Mom gasped. "Ethan." I didn't move. 2 guards stepped forward. Dad argued. Tyler cursed. Mom shouted my name until it echoed off the marble floor. I turned away before they were fully outside. That mattered. I did not manage their exit. I did not apologize to the people watching. I walked back into the elevator and pressed 18. As the doors closed, my mother's voice disappeared. I looked at my reflection in the metal wall. My face was pale, my hands were shaking, but my eyes looked different. Their power had never been real. It only worked when I opened the gate. 2 days after the lobby incident, I got a text from Uncle Raymond. "Can I come by tonight? Just me. I have something you need to see." I stared at the message for a long time. Raymond was the one who told me about the wedding, but he was still my father's brother. Part of me wondered if he was coming to tell me I had gone too far. I almost said no. Then I remembered his face in the grocery store. I replied 7 o'clock. He arrived exactly on time, carrying a worn leather briefcase. He looked older than I remembered. He didn't hug me. He just nodded and sat across from me in my living room. "I heard about your office," he said. "If you're here to say I was wrong, don't." "I'm not," Raymond said. "I'm here because you don't know the half of it." He opened the briefcase. Inside were printed emails, handwritten notes, photocopies, and old estate papers. "What is all this?" "Copies," he said, "from when your grandfather died. I was involved before your father pushed me out. I kept everything because I didn't trust him." He handed me one page. It was an email from my father to my mother, dated 10 years earlier. Subject: cabin problem. "Ray says we can't qualify for the mortgage. My credit is shot. Put it in Ethan's name. He's got steady income and that oldest son guilt. Tell him it's temporary, and we'll make it a family trust later so he doesn't get ideas. He'll pay, because he needs to feel useful. We keep the keys." I read it 3 times. Oldest son guilt, needs to feel useful. We keep the keys. My throat went dry. "They planned it," I said. Raymond nodded. "They knew it was mine." "Yes." "And they let me pay, anyway." "Yes." He handed me another paper. This one was in my mother's handwriting. A budget note. "Tyler business startup, ask Ethan to co-sign. Frame is brotherly duty. Phones keep under Ethan's plan. Storage Robert should say it's sentimental. Cabin never discuss ownership directly. Use family place." I felt physically sick. Every guilt trip had been a line item. Every emergency had been strategy. Raymond gave me the last folder. "This is the one that matters most." It was a financial projection from the previous year. Asset liquidation plan. Projected sale Lake Norman cabin. Estimated value $520,000. Proceeds 50% Robert Endy Lane, 50% Tyler. There was no line for me. No repayment, no share, no mention of 10 years of mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, roof repairs, dock repairs, or weekends spent fixing what they broke. "They were going to sell it," Raymond said. "Pressure you, trick you, maybe worse. But you were never in the split. Ethan, not a dollar." I stared at the page until the numbers blurred. It was not confusion. It was not bad communication. It was intent. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked. Raymond looked down. "Because I was a coward. Robert has always been meaner than me, and your mother makes silence feel easier than conflict." I told myself maybe they loved you in their own way. His voice got rough. "But hiding Tyler's wedding from you was pure cruelty. Then trying to use your cabin for his honeymoon after that. I couldn't stay quiet." "Can I keep these?" "They're yours," he said. "Give them to Dana. They prove intent." After he left, I sat alone with the papers spread across my coffee table. I touched the email where my father called me useful. The worst part was, he had been right. I had wanted to be useful, because useful was the closest thing to loved I had ever felt in that family. But now I finally understood. There had never been love to earn, only access. Access to my money, my credit, my labor, my house, and my shame. I scanned every document and sent them to Dana and Grant. Then I locked the originals in my safe. That night, I slept for the first time in weeks. Not because I was healed, because I no longer wondered who they were. The fallout did not arrive like a thunderclap. It came like rot finally reaching the surface, once Grant cut off the payments and Dana sent the documents. The life my parents had been pretending to afford started collapsing piece by piece. The phones went first. I had paid the family plan for 6 years, because Mom said switching accounts was too confusing, and Dad said it was cheaper together. On Monday, Grant helped me cancel the lines tied to their phones. By Monday afternoon, my office voicemail had 7 messages from numbers I didn't recognize. I deleted them. Then came the storage unit. For 9 years, I had paid to store Dad's old furniture, broken lamps, Christmas boxes, and whatever else he claimed was too sentimental to throw away. When the company sent the payment notice to my parents, instead of me, Mom left a message. "Ethan, they're threatening to auction your grandmother's dining set. I don't know what kind of son lets that happen. Call them and fix this." I didn't call. I didn't fix it. Then Tyler's business loan started bleeding. Without my quiet rescue payments, and without my backing renewed, the bank froze his credit line. His marketing agency suddenly couldn't cover payroll or rent. I heard from a cousin that Tyler had to let his assistant go. Then he moved out of his small office suite and started taking client calls from his basement. That should have felt good. It didn't. It felt like watching a building fall and realizing I had been the hidden beam holding it up, but I still did not step underneath it again. The social fallout came next. At first, relatives called me like messengers from a kingdom that had lost its tax collector. Aunt Denise said, "Your mother is devastated." Cousin Paul said, "Whatever happened, you don't cut off family." One of Dad's friends left a voicemail, calling me an ungrateful son. I did not argue. I sent screenshots. The email where Dad wrote about my oldest son guilt. Mom's note listing how to keep me paying. The asset plan where my lake house was worth $520, 000, and my share was 0. After that, the calls changed. Some people went silent, some apologized, some pretended they had never taken a side. But the story stopped belonging to my parents. They had controlled emotion for years. I had paper. And paper does not care how loudly someone cries. Within a month, their image cracked in public. The cousins from Ohio canceled Thanksgiving. Mom stopped posting restaurant photos because I was no longer paying the card she used. Dad's lawn went uncut. The shrubs grew wild. Their house did not look poor. It looked unmanaged. That was the truth. They had never been stable. They had been subsidized. Then I got a letter from an attorney representing them. It accused me of emotional distress, abandonment, and elder abuse. I drove it straight to Dana. She skimmed it and laughed once. This is a bluff. It doesn't feel like one. That's because they wrote it to scare a son, not a court. Dana's reply went out that day. 1 page. It listed everything I had spent over 10 years' mortgage payments, taxes, repairs, storage, phone plans, insurance reimbursements, and emergency transfers. Over $230,000. Then she attached Raymond's emails. The final paragraph was simple. If they pursued legal action, we would counterclaim for fraud, unjust enrichment, and repayment. Their lawyer never wrote back. That silence told me everything. For the first time, my family had met someone they could not guilt, shout down, or shame into obedience. They said I destroyed them. I didn't. I only stopped financing the lie. I thought Dana's letter would end it. For almost a month, there was silence, no office ambushes, no relatives calling with fake concern, no voicemails from strange numbers. Then my father emailed me. Subject, let's talk. Ethan, enough is enough. We are still family. Lawyers are expensive and unnecessary. Your mother is not sleeping. Meet us at Freedom Park this Saturday. Neutral ground, no yelling, just a conversation. Do this for your mother. I read it twice. There was no real apology in it, only a command, wearing the costume of a request. I forwarded it to Dana. She told me not to go alone and not to sign anything. Marcus offered to come, but I asked Uncle Raymond if my parents wanted to pretend this was about family. I wanted a family witness. We met them Saturday afternoon. Freedom Park was full of people living normal lives. Kids ran near the playground. A couple walked a golden retriever. Someone tossed a football across the grass. My parents sat on a bench near the water. They looked smaller than I remembered. Dad's shoulders were rounded. Mom's hair had gray at the roots. For 1 second, the old reflex moved in me. Step closer. Soften your voice. Fix it. Then Dad saw Raymond. His face hardened. You brought him. I brought a witness, I said. Mom looked at me with wet eyes. Ethan, please sit down. I'll stand. Dad cleared his throat. This has gone far enough. No, I said, it went far enough 10 years ago. I'm just finally saying it out loud. Mom flinched. We made mistakes, she said. The wedding was handled badly. Handled badly, I repeated. We were trying to keep things peaceful. You lied to me. Dad's jaw tightened. It was Tyler's day, and I was your son. Neither of them answered. Mom reached for my arm. I stepped back before she touched me. We want our son back, she whispered. I looked at her hand hanging in the air. You didn't want a son. You wanted a wallet with a truck. That is cruel, she said. No, cruel was making lists about how to use me. Cruel was planning to sell my cabin and split the money without me. Cruel was letting me buy a suit for a wedding you already knew I wasn't invited to. Dad leaned forward. Everything you did voluntarily. That almost made me smile. There it was. Not I'm sorry. Not we hurt you. Just you let us. Mom started crying. We are struggling, she said. The bills are piling up. Tyler's business is in trouble. We might lose the house. I know. Dad stared at me. And you're fine with that. I'm not responsible for that. You are our oldest son. I said, and you used that until there was nothing left. Mom shook her head. We can fix this. We just need to get back to normal. Normal. That word told me everything. Normal meant I paid. Normal meant Tyler received. Normal meant Mom cried. Dad glared. And I opened my wallet to make the room quiet. What does normal mean? I asked. Dad answered. We need access to the lake house again. Family access. And maybe help Tyler with the loan. Mom added. Just for a few months. No, the word cut through the park noise. No access to the lake house, I said. Ever. The locks are changed. The cameras are up. If any of you step onto that property without written permission, I will call the police. Dad's face turned red. No shared finances. No phone plans. No storage. No loan payments. No emergency transfers. Ethan. Mom whispered, and no contact. Do not call me. Do not email me. Do not come to my work. Do not send relatives after me. If you do, Dana handles it, or the police do. Dad stood. You can't cut off your own parents. I can, I said. And I am. Mom stared at me. You hate us that much? I shook my head. That's what you'll never understand. I don't hate you. I just don't belong to you anymore. Dad looked scared then. You'll regret this when you're alone. I was alone at Tyler's wedding, I said. I survived. I turned to Raymond. I'm ready. We walked toward the parking lot while Mom called my name behind me. A year earlier, her voice would have pulled me back. This time, I kept walking. At my truck, Raymond asked, "Are you okay?" I took a breath. "Not yet," I said, "but I'm free." 6 months passed. It is autumn now, and I am sitting on the back deck of the lake house, with a mug of black coffee in my hand and a blanket over my shoulders. The air smells like pine, cold water, and wood smoke from somewhere across the lake. The trees along the shoreline are red and gold. The water is still. For the first month after I cut contact, the quiet scared me. I was used to noise, phone calls, emergencies, Tyler needing help, mom crying, dad demanding, some bill, some crisis, some problem with my name already written across the solution. When all of that stopped, I did not feel peaceful right away. I felt useless. That was the hardest part to admit. My family had trained me so well that being left alone felt like being fired from love. If nobody needed me, I didn't know what I was supposed to be, so I started therapy. At first, I hated saying that. It felt like admitting they had damaged me, but they had. Not in one dramatic blow, in small repeated ways. The kind of damage that teaches a man to confuse exhaustion with loyalty. Marcus comes over most Sundays. Uncle Raymond does too. Sometimes we eat at the cabin, sometimes at my apartment in Charlotte. We talk about football, bad movies, work, lake repairs, and sometimes nothing important at all. Nobody asks me for money. Nobody calls me selfish for saying no. Nobody makes love feel like a bill. The cabin looks different now. I painted the front door dark green. I replaced the old rug my mother liked with one I chose myself. I turned the second bedroom, the one Tyler used to claim every summer, into a small office and reading room. There is a heavy wooden desk by the window now. There are books on the shelves. There is no spare key hidden under the planter anymore. I listed the cabin as a rental for selected weekends. Not every weekend, just enough that the place pays its own taxes, insurance, and maintenance. For the first time in 10 years, the house gives back. I have not spoken to my parents. Raymond told me they sold their house and moved into a smaller place outside Concord. Tyler closed his agency and got a job at a dealership. Their lives did not end. They just became their own responsibility. Sometimes it still hurts. They were my parents. He was my brother. Some mornings, grief still shows up like weather, but it passes. And when it passes, I am still here. I used to think losing my family would destroy me. It didn't. Cutting them off was like cutting away something infected. It hurt. It left a scar, but it saved the rest of me. I am Ethan Caldwell. I'm 36 years old. I own my truck. I own my career. I own this house. More than that, I own my peace. My phone is on the table beside me, silent. No missed calls, no angry texts, no emergencies wearing my last name. For once, nobody is asking me to pay for this moment. It is just mine. If this story hit close to home, leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe for more family drama stories.